This weekend, disaster will strike in College Station. Not a real disaster, though, no need to worry. It's a simulated one.
Texas Task Force 1 will hold an operational readiness exercise at Disaster City, a training facility operated by the Texas A&M Engineering Extension Service. KAGS HD News reporter Ian Smith spent some time there and shows us why this weekend's exercise is so important to first responders.
Taking a walk through Disaster City almost had us fooled. Everywhere we looked, we saw wreckage.
Disaster City really has structures that replicate anything you would find in any metropolitan area. So obviously you'd have a house in a metropolitan area, so this is what this structure is.
The piles of rubble, collapsed buildings, and even uprooted trees are all here for a purpose. They're based on real-life destruction.
Every time we go on a deployment, we bring something back from that deployment and we replicate it here at Disaster City. Two of the props that we're going to be exercising on were designed after the West explosion and after the deployment we went to in Moore, Oklahoma.
This weekend's disaster simulation will kick it up a notch, challenging more than 700 first responders with an extra ingredient.
There'll be radioactivity in certain areas, there will be chemical spills in certain areas, and they have to perform life-saving duties, so they're going to be moving survivors out of the area while still having to deal with that contamination.
From mangled cars to train wreckage, Disaster City looks like the real deal. And when the real deal strikes, the first responders practicing here will be ready.
The more realistic the training environment, the better the responder responds when it comes time for the real thing.
And to further achieve the real thing, first responders need volunteers to play victims.
Volunteers are an absolute necessity to training here at Disaster City because it allows us to make the scenarios as realistic as possible. When you're rescuing a mannequin or a dummy, they can't give you feedback.
Feedback that will prepare first responders for when the disaster really strikes. In College Station, Ian Smith, KAGS HD News.
Texas Task Force 1 will host Utah Task Force 1 and other first responders for this weekend's disaster simulation. First responders need hundreds of volunteers for the exercise because it will go on for 2 days. That's Saturday and overnight into Sunday. To find out how you can volunteer, head over to our website at kagstv.com.